Hey, happy Saturday to everyone. It's Michael Scott, and we're all here for Dad's Dads, brought to you by National Parents Union. And hey, fellas, missed you much this week. Glad to be connected with you. Why don't we go around and introduce ourselves? And I'll start bottom of my screen with Jose.
Hey everybody, good morning. Jose Manuel Villarreal, father of Nathan and Noah, and son of Jose Macario Maria Irene. Welcome from sunny San Diego.
All right, Mr. Monteleone, sir.
Hey, good afternoon or good morning, everybody. John Monteleone, proud father of Rochelle and Antonia Monteleone, and incredibly proud son of Lynette and Joseph Monteleone. Happy to see everybody, fellas. Great to see you.
Man, the myth, the legend, Tim.
Jesus. Hey guys, great to see you guys this week too. We got Tim Langen from the National Parents Union, proud son of Patty and Jimmy Langen, and proud father of Matthew, Miles, David, Dylan, and Max. I did good. I didn't forget one this week. Good to see you guys.
And you didn't curse either, man.
Not yet.
Not yet. We're going to see if we can get you there, though. Michael Scott, proud son of Vassie and Rashila. Just grateful to be the father of Addison and Grayson, and fortunate enough that my better half chose me, Megan. So welcome, everybody. How y'all doing this week? How was your week? Let's start off there before we get into the topic. Any highlights that you want to shout out for the week?
You know, I got to tell you, man, I was hot after last week's episode talking about politics, and I don't know if I brought it into this week or if I'm just filled with that what I like to call self-righteous anger and not seeing other people's side of the story. But you know, I had a few experiences this week. I'm trying to keep it calm and keep it cool because, like you said, sometimes we bring our families, our problems home to our families, and it's, you know, I live right outside of Boston. And people think it's a democratic city, but I gotta tell you, you go into some places, man, it's you don't want to talk politics, and you know, everything from the Kamala Harris Pence debate has been coming up in my life lately, to going into Starbucks, and you know, my partner chose me too, and I just assume in the liberal city of Boston, everyone's like me. And my beautiful partner, Kerry Rodriguez, was nice enough to buy me coffee the other day. And I had to walk in to a Starbucks I'd never been in Charlestown, Massachusetts. And they said, "Oh, what coffee are you waiting for?" And I said, "Oh, the name is Trump Sucks." Because that's the name on the
I saw that.
And I didn't think of it because I just say it. And
Okay.
I'm being accosted. All of a sudden, the manager comes up to me and says, and I'm looking, I just want my coffee. I see it right over there. And she's like, "I'm sorry, sir. You have to, you know, this is a business, sir. And I can't have my employees saying that." And I said, "Well, can I just have my pumpkin muffin? I just want my pumpkin muffin, dude." And so, you know, that's how my week's been going, honestly. Just trying to stay off of social media, trying to stay out of politics week, trying to stay calm and cool for the kids, and just trying to eat my pumpkin muffin, man.
Oh man.
Yeah,
But it's true. So there you go.
sounds like it's a them problem there, man.
That's right.
You problem. That's a them problem.
That's right.
Hey, for me, everybody, I did some home visits this week to some students. I chased down a 12th grader Latino boy who is right there to graduate, and I had my one-on-ones with the counselors on Friday, and she said, "Hey, man, I got 3 kids. We need to go chase." I said, "You know, I'm gonna go get him." And I caught him. I woke him up, talked to him, had him stand next to his father, who was out there kind of doing some maintenance work in this apartment complex in one of the tough neighborhoods we have. And I said, "Stand next to him." I took a picture of him. And I said, "That same picture we're going to take when you graduate in June." And right now he's got all Fs. So we're trying to hustle and rally to get him going again. It's the virtual world. You know, he's like, "Look, I just don't like doing this, man. I'm done. I'm 18. I want to bounce. Like, this isn't working for me." I said, no. So I'm going to call him actually after the show and see if he woke up and did some homework. But yeah, that was my highlight, man, is just getting back to the community and just trying to do my part.
Yeah, man, I had a couple highlights. So in that spirit, Jose, an assistant principal from the high school, him and I, we do wellness checks every Friday. So him and I, we go out, we beat the pavement, make sure we get those kids that are missing courses and classes. And in the beginning of the year, I had a list of about 30 students. This last week, we narrowed it down to 5. So we're getting kids connected, hooked on, make sure they're showing up for classes. So that was a good feeling. And then we also hosted on Wednesday, we hosted our first ever drive-through open house at the school. We had about 10 community partners that came out, spoke to the families as they were driving through. We served every single one of them an individually packaged rigatoni dinner as they were exiting out the parking lot. And we had about 117 families come through. 117 families, first ever virtual open house. So it was a great thing, man. Great highlight of the week.
That's awesome, gentlemen. Yeah, so highlights. And I'm not gonna lie, it was a long week. Posing that question, I did so just so I can get some good vibes. Not that I'm not thankful for every day. Man, there's a lot of things juggling professionally. We're in a remote piece. John, I work hand in hand with John, but we're in a remote piece while trying to plan on bringing people back. I guess the highlight of the week is that we could potentially have a couple great partners that we've been working with to do some community-based COVID testing, where we can get, whoever wants to get tested, but at the same time, we are, from a school standpoint, potentially looking at getting 25 to 30% of our students weekly randomly tested, just so we can get an idea before coming back what the rates look like of positivity, symptomatic. We're working with an app developer so that we can potentially share out to our community so they can, just give a daily check-in so we can make some real informed decisions. We know the struggle is real remotely and everyone's doing their best. We know face-to-face education is what we're made for, but at what risk? That's what we're juggling right now. So that's the thing that's keeping me up. So, while there's some highlights there, man, it is just a daily, and then trying to do school, right? We're at the same time still trying to just be at school. So, because we got some feedback from families and staff alike, and they're like, why are you spending so much time on things that aren't related to the day-to-day instruction? Because we're asking a lot of questions. We're asking those wellness questions so we can help. And it's just a different experience. So I'm glad to hear the wellness checks. I'm glad to hear about the home visits. Because just kind of my motivation. So selfishly, I'm using you guys. Not gonna lie, right now, that's my motivation to keep going and keep pushing. Because I know what we're doing is right, but it's hard to, as an educator, you want to be in the classroom, you want to see instruction and support there, and I just haven't been able to do that. But anyway, that's not what we're here for. But it is gonna help us transition, though. Challenges. I had an opportunity. Part of what we're doing to get us started, restarted face-to-face is going to visit other schools. So I did. I actually got to go to a couple schools this week, and I saw some kids in a face-to-face scenario. Not gonna lie, they looked miserable. They just looked miserable with all the safety measures that we have to put in place. I didn't really see joy. I saw kids there because they had to be there. I didn't see joy. And then I came home. So this is where our topic for today is, the challenges that you might be facing with your children. My daughter is like every day, Dad, is the virus gone? Mine is 3.5. Is the virus gone? Can I go to preschool? She wants to go so bad. Visited the preschool. Yeah, all the safety measures are there. I just don't trust it yet. Greatest challenge that I'm facing right now is my daughter wanting to do something, and I'm having to say, no, baby, just can't right now. I'm trying to explain that to her. So the topic of this week, and we'll go down as many corridors as we can here, but what are some of the greatest challenges that you're either facing now or have faced as fathers? And, how do we overcome these challenges? So anyone want to lean into a challenge that you're either facing now or have faced?
Well, I'll jump in right now. And first of all, it's nice to hear that you guys are doing, making up the slack for me for all the work you guys are doing across the country while I'm picking fights with a barista in Boston. But, you know, I think my biggest challenge at this moment right now, Michael, is, again, like I've talked a lot on the show, is how Carrie and me are merging our families, you know, and that's 5 boys, 12, soon to be 13-year-old, couple of 9-year-olds, an 8-year-old, and a 7-year-old. And right now, I mean, we're almost like we were talking before the show about the survey you sent out. You know, like some people are happy with remote learning. Some people are really sad with in-person learning. You know, and we kind of have that microcosm in our house right now. You know, we've got 3 kids on IEPs, 1 son with Asperger's, absolutely is not engaged. And, you know, we're trying to balance his diagnosis with how school affects him. Doesn't really like it, you know. Then I've got 1 kid who's the same way. My oldest son, my 9-year-old Max, he wants to go back to in-person school. He finds that the constant Zoom meetings is boring as hell, just not engaging. It's a lot of review. And then I got the 7-year-old who's killing it. But quite frankly, you could probably put him in front of a screen and play that stupid Marshmallow DJ guy they play all the time, and he'd be fine. So he doesn't really care. So I think my biggest challenge right now is like that emotional health and balancing that with them learning. And it's so intertwined now, you know, because a couple of the kids are bummed out and they're depressed, and I can tell it's because they're not learning, they're not engaged, they're not seeing their friends. There's no engagement with the kids on the screen. So it's not like the normal school. So it's really the first time, I think, where it's really balancing that emotional and academic learning, and making sure they're healthy, and really taking it to bed with me at night, seeing how we can do better. You know, so that's what I'm dealing with right now.
Yeah. So Tim, I guess, you know, that balance piece, you know, I think that's just a trend that we keep talking about as dads, trying to find that balance. You shifted it to emotional health of your children, and balancing where their different needs are and taking it to bed with you. Like, so when I hear you say that, it's like, what are some non-academic things that you can potentially, and this is for everyone, merge into the academic? So like, I feel as though I'm more into learning when I can see myself in the learning. So I guess that's the challenge that I would, you know, say to you to pose to not only your family, but to the educators too, because they've got to be aware, we've got to be aware as educators that this screen that we're providing education in, there's still students behind it, and all those personalized approaches towards learning that we would do in a face-to-face, where we would try we've got to do virtually. So
and then it's tough too, because you said you try to do the non-academic things. Well, there is no way in hell I'm bringing my kids into the petri dish that is the Museum of Science, Legoland, even the park. I mean, you try to do some outdoor things, and all of a sudden you got 5 kids showing up at the park, and you're like, okay, everyone, masks on. You know, yeah. And you don't want to cause damage with that either. Just a whole new world.
John, what you got, brother?
Yeah, I mean, almost everything that Tim talked about, I think a lot of my challenges are really not with me so far. Like Haley, my girlfriend, she teaches preschool in another district down the street from us. And they're coming back 5 days, full go, starting the 19th of this month. And so she's already in her building. She's already had 2 people that have tested positive for COVID. And the communication to the staff is next to none. So she's kind of finding out word of mouth. So my challenges is really coming from her coming home every day, just super stressed. You know, she can't see her dad. Her dad is a high risk, you know, individual. So his birthday was just this past week on Wednesday. And, you know, it hurt my heart to see that she couldn't, like, she had to have this birthday celebration from the driveway of her parents' house. And just the stress that she brings home, because, you know, Mike like Mike said, we're in a different space on how we're approaching, getting kids back into the building and staff back into the building. But her district is not taking I guess, a thorough approach. And I don't know everything that's going into it. I'm just hearing it word of mouth. So I'm not trying to judge, anything. Everybody makes decisions with the best information that they have. So I mean, that's one of the challenges. And then of course, just, the wellness visits, I had a wellness visit this week, and, I was sitting on the porch with the mother, and, she said something to me that was funny, but yet it kind of stuck with me. She said, she said, I have seen you more than any other of my kids' principals in the past. She was like, because you're here every week just to see how we're doing, help with the hot spots and stuff like that. But, at first I took that like, oh, well, that's a good thing. But then I was driving away and I'm thinking like, our parents are dealing with so much right now, and they're literally our teachers, co-teachers. Like now more than ever, we need those relationships. We need those bonds to be strong. We need to make all those positive deposits. And I love doing the wellness visits, but I don't want them to get to the point that every time they see the principal, it's in a space where I'm saying, hey, like you're juggling your job, you're juggling multiple kids, you're juggling learning online. And here I am to say like, I need for you to do a little bit more, and I'm hoping I'm not coming across that way, because that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to visit them and say, hey, like, is there anything that we can do? Like, Mike always talks about, we don't want selfish relationships. We want the partnership to be both ways. Like, so if we're asking something from you, we want to be able to give you something in return. And so that's mostly where the space that I come from. But, so those are just the challenges that I'm dealing with. And then of course, like everything that Mike said, like we have teachers that are struggling, and their bags are starting to get empty, because when we're talking to our parents, they're so frustrated and they're so overwhelmed, and we're running out of strategies to give them. Like, so, I was talking to Mike offline, like, what could we do to kind of fill our buckets with strategies to help caregivers with their students during this time? Like, what could we give to them? Like, how can we make life easy for them, or mentally less taxing? But I feel like I'm rambling right now, but it felt very therapeutic to kind of get that off my chest.
Well, I think that's the thing about challenges, though. If we keep it in, when it does come out, you keep going, and that's sometimes necessary. But John, so a couple things that resonated is obviously with Haley having to go back to school, there's a physical health component there that you spoke of, and then that anxiety of now, maybe I have to restrict myself even more from those that I love.
Yeah,
that's the piece there in this time. Like, I'll echo your sentiments, John. And I've been on lockdown as much as possible. I go out for work, and that's about it. And even then, I'm really cautious about that. But here's the thing that this type of situation does to people, though. You're out in your building almost every day, and some other principals are out every day. And now and then you have different teachers that are at home, or you have some safety compliance folks that are coming in. There's this battle across even jobs and across communities. Well, you're front line, and you're out there, but you're not. And there's this sense of judging. Everyone is in this space, it seems though, that we're judging each other based upon whether we're wearing a mask, whether we're out, how much time are we out. And to me, that's a stress upon itself. Because at the end of the day, you've got different people that are battling different things relative to who they're close with. If they are taking care of a elderly parent, or even, wanting to, or a child that's, immune compromised. But people don't know the story. So to me, this is like a magnifying glass that we need to take out of this. You don't know what people are walking through outside of this COVID time. And to your point, John, like really, having just authentic conversations where people don't think you're just coming to push on them more, or that there's judgment, and that's a challenge. Like that's a challenge of humanity. We saw it on on display all week in the news. There's a lack of humanity and a lack of respect for people. I mean, 45, and the COVID, we're not going to necessarily go down that road, but I saw some poor humanity based upon, the things that I was reading in tweets and news stories. At the end of the day, politics aside, it is a human being. And yeah, he may have made some choices about, and some things that I really feel are negligent in the seriousness of the disease. But the fact that he may have or had COVID, and the fact that people were responding in a certain way is just, to me, it relates to the stress. And so far hearing John and Tim talk, there's just this emotional health balance there that has gotten people potentially acting outside of their character. And it's got to be a challenge for families. We're heads of families to keep that, to stay rational in our approach and not let our kids see us being irrational or inhumane. And that's a big challenge. So, Jose, let's invite you into the conversation. Greatest challenges that you may be facing now with children or just in life in general, or have.
Well, I'll say this to you, Mike, that I was just researching real quick. A statement hit me after hearing you and Tim and John. I think I just looked it up, and I don't know how credible the source is, but Rahm Emanuel, Winston Churchill, and I think there's another origin, the statement of never let a good crisis go to waste. And I'll tell you, as a dad, man, it's making me think to be better. I'm not spending enough time with my boys. I'm just not. I'm grinding. I'm letting them loose. They're sleeping late. They're staying up late. I'm getting a lot of grace. But then, because I come home exhausted, they're asleep when I get up. When I get home, I want to go to sleep. When I get, so I got to do better. I just have to do better. And it made me really think that this weekend is my reset as a father. And, it's not that I give everything to my work, because that's not what it is, because my work is my passion. My work is what it is. There is no balance in my life, because my work is just like my life. I mean, it's, it's not like I got to get up and got to go to work, because my why is defined. I'm clear about that. But I'll say that as a dad, I still struggle, man. I mean, and I think I'm my worst critic, to be honest. I think I could always do better. I've always said that about myself, that, there's nothing anyone can say about me that's worse than I'm saying to myself. My self-talk related to how better I need to be, because I carry those ancestors, man. I had it hard. How about 1940s with the braceros coming across the border and being sprayed down for pesticides because they're going to work in the fields like my father was? How about people being put in boats and coming over here and being slaves? I had it hard. How about Martin Luther King having to walk to protest just for civil rights, and I'm crying about something else? So in my head, that's my rationalization. But as a son, I just bought a recorder, like a nice professional recorder that's over my couch, because I'm going to try to get my mom out of the house after 8 months. She's not been out of the house because she's 84, I think now. And I think she's going to outlive my father, who passed away 4 years ago. And so I'm going to go see him tomorrow at the gravesite. But I'm going to record her. I got to get her voice, man. I got to get it on. I got to get it on tape. I got to get it on the little, the digital stuff. And so it's a 4-hour drive. So, hey, let's go, because I don't even spend time with her. I mean, I come home and I probably spend 30 minutes, maybe an hour, and that's all right. I got to go to bed. I'm exhausted, or I'm catching the Laker game, so I'm trying to balance. I want to enjoy myself a little bit. I'm catching, the baseball game. I'm just trying to decompress, and I feel guilty about that. So that's what I'm struggling with, is what's making me feel so guilty about having to balance being a good son to a mother who's, look, man, let's be honest here. Life is short. And we're seeing it through COVID, but it's a realization that the hourglass is turned over for my mother, as it is for all of us, but she's a little closer because of age, right? So I'm thinking, dang, every day I'm just ticking away, and I'm thinking, what am I doing to enjoy her? And so I'm carrying this guilt, I'm carrying this pressure, but again, nothing compared to what our ancestors went through, right? So I think it makes me feel a little less hard on myself, but yet I hold myself accountable. So I just got to do better as a dad. And, you know, my kids, 8th grade, 5th grade. But I'll tell you, every time I see him, man, I'm all over him, man. You know, I'm bear hugging him. My 5th grader, man, he came by the other day. I try to grab him every time he walks by, and I put him in some kind of hold. You know, I used to wrestle. I wasn't very good, but I remember a couple moves. You know, and he's pretty thick, man. So I put my leg around him, and I kiss him all over his face, and and I say to him, "All right, man, how old are you? But you got to give me the math right, because if you get the math wrong, I'm going to triple it." So I just keep peppering him with kisses all over, man. And I said, "What's the magic word to get out?" He says, "I love you, Dad." I said, "All right." And then he says it to me, and I said, "Oh, you got to say it a little louder." You know, so that's my moment to try to just connect as a father to a boy turning to a man, to show him also there's a strength to being a man, and there's a softness to being a man. So I'm trying to do it with my actions, but I feel like it's not enough. So like with John, this is very therapeutic. I don't think I've said this out loud to everybody. So I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you.
You know, Jose, as I listen to you talk, and so I'm going to pose a question for you. You do a really good job of like talking about everything that you're going through, but everything that our ancestors went through, and everything that the people that came before us went through. And you do a really good job of saying, okay, in comparison to that, I can handle this. I can make it through to the other side. And my dad has always told me, stress is only the power that you give the external factors. If you don't give it the power, then it's not stress. It's stress because you allow it to be stress. So my question to you is, how can you do as good a job of taking that guilt away from you as you do those external factors that you just talked about?
Wow.
Because you do a really good job of saying, hey, like, I'm not going to stress out, and I'm not going to beat myself up over this, because people before me had dealt with a lot more. But then you are holding on to this guilt. How could you treat that guilt the same way that you're treating those other external factors? Does that make sense?
It does. And that's another hour show, man. I don't know. That's powerful, man. I'd have to sit on that. I don't know. It makes the fur come up on my skin, man. That's really good, John. Wow. I don't know. That's interesting. So go ahead, Tim.
I was saying,
Wow.
I have goosebumps now. I got to tell you, because honestly, Jose, as you were talking, maybe that is like the biggest challenge dads have, is like what you said. I'm the same way. Like I'm my harshest critic. I never have enough time. And me and Carrie have been talking about this a lot lately. Even though we're home, it's almost like it's brought to the forefront, because at least when we were working in an office or something like that, we had the excuse. Well, we had to commute home, we get home late. Now we're all up in each other's faces, and we still don't feel like we're giving our kids enough time, because we're working in some cases twice as hard. My kids will want me to read to them, and I'm like, my head's rocking, and I'm thinking like, oh, like, not tonight, guys, and it's that constant. I don't think I've ever felt more consistent guilt than what you talked about, Jose, that I'm never giving enough time or never doing enough to show my kids that I love them, or to give them enough attention. And I do the same exact thing with hugs and kisses, and they'll give me a quick hug, and then they'll walk away, and I'll be like, ooh, that's not a good hug, and I'll drag them back like 7 or 8 times, and yeah, I mean, I hear that from so many dads and so many parents, Jose.
Yeah.
But just to John's point, like, how do we give ourselves a break?
Yeah, that's the break. When we want to keep pushing, when we know we're juggling so many different things. So we've talked about family today. We've talked about work. We've even gotten really detailed in, the we don't know our end date. We don't know our loved ones' end date, and the challenge that comes along with that, of wanting to grab all those moments for when that time does occur, that we have them, to even the extent of, and this is kind of what I'm hearing a lot in our conversation, is this legacy that we
Mhm.
carry from a family standpoint, from a for those whose shoulders we stand upon now have come before us. Like, and what does that mean as leaders of our homes, of our community, et cetera, or just being parts of that? Because leadership comes from within anywhere in a community and organization. So it's not positional that I'm talking about either. It's just true leadership, right? Getting people to do things, to be things that they wouldn't necessarily think they could be, right? That's what I want for my children. I want them to do things that they just don't know are possible, right? But as you all had talked, it took me to, and I threw this up earlier. Excuse my
Mhm.
but the dash, right? So, my begin date was July 20th, 1978. I don't know what this end date is. Only thing I can control is this dash.
Mm.
And I think that that's powerful. And there's a poem that, I don't know if anyone has read the poem, but there's a poem called The Dash by Linda Ellis. And I encourage everyone to take a time to read it. But if you don't mind, I would love to kind of just read it now. It's short. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke of the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For the dash represents all the time they spent alive on earth, and now only those who love them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that still can be rearranged. To be less quick to anger and show appreciation more and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you lived your dash? So as you all talked about, and we all talked about our challenges, that I guess where I'm at right now, it's a point of saying, let's take them for what they are, but let's not let them encompass who we are. We often give tips to dads, right? That's the whole premise, is to give tips to dads. Like, yeah, here's our struggle, and here's how we're, identifying what those are. But then, what do we do with those? And that poem makes me think of, we've got to accept them for what they are, what the challenges are. But man, let's be grateful that we do have those challenges. And I guess it's how you go about it. Like I think earlier Tim was like, "How was your week?" And I was like, "I wish I had something positive to say." And listening to you all said, "Oh man, I woke up each day. I got to see my beautiful children. I had to kiss my wonderful wife. I got to go to a place where I could make a difference from a work standpoint. And yeah, maybe I didn't do as great as I could, but man, I really tried to love people along the way. And at the end of the day, regardless of the challenge, if we can say we did that, aren't we okay? And if we could spread that to others, isn't that what life is about? And then those people spread it to 2 people, and those 2 people spread it to 2, and next thing you know, you've got this domino effect, this chain reaction. That's, to me, is the essence of overcoming challenges. So dads, hey, we're gonna have them, own them, but don't let them dominate your life. I brought that back to a political place, but I apologize. Don't let the challenges dominate your life, right? So, fellas, thoughts about your dash? Thoughts about what you're gonna do to spread that joy, knowing that everyone we encounter has a challenge, right? The barista, the owner has some challenges. What do we do about that? John, how do you support Haley, knowing that she's having some challenges with work, but knowing that the decision makers in our place, yeah, they're faced with challenges too. Jose, what are you going to do with your mom who hasn't been out in 8 months? And that's a challenge. And maybe even stepping out into this back into the world is going to be a challenge. What do we do as dads, as sons, as leaders in our profession and partners to our significant others to help them with their challenge, to make the best of this dash?
I'm not great whenever we do homework on this show. But if I could give myself one assignment, because I think I'm not going to shoot for perfection. I think that's where I burn myself and I beat myself up as a dad, looking for perfection. And again, I'm only human, is that I know when I come home sometimes from a busy day, and this is something I should be so grateful for, that like the kids are like, Dad, 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 Mom, Mom, Mom. And you're like, oh, hold on for a second. Jeez, like give me a second, I want to get over that hump, that coming home hump, where I can just be like, take a breath, maybe stand outside the door, expect chaos when I come home, and take a breath and just like enjoy that first hour when I get home. Because I feel like when I come home through the door sometimes, it's like I'm in full like shutdown mode. I'm like looking for things. I'm like, who didn't flush the toilet? Who took the doorknob off? These are all real life things, Like just,
who didn't flush the toilet? We'll come back to that. We'll come back.
That's probably my number 7 challenge. But like just chilling when I come through the door, come through the door, because I talk a lot about. I grew up in a tense household, man, and we can spread that stuff to our kids. I want when I come home to my kids to be like, hey, there's Dad. I'm glad to see him. He's glad to see me, and that's it. And if I can just get through that half an hour, that hour, that'd be great. Because a lot of times that's what I beat myself up with at night, being like, oh, I was such a neurotic freak when I came home. I wish I had just given out some hugs. So that's my homework. Get through that first hour of hell when I come home.
Take a breath.
And if it makes you feel any better, the other night, Haley I had just walked through the door. And you ever get that feeling where you just want to sit down and just let the TV just wash over you and not really think about anything? Well, it was one of those days where she was just super stressed. She teaches preschool. So she's like, I'm going to have 30 kids in the morning, 30 kids in the afternoon. That's 60 kids I'm coming in contact with. And so she's just telling me about, all the things that she's grappling with about this return to school. Mm-hmm. And then she stopped mid-sentence and looked at me and said, I'll give you a minute. And it was my body language. It was my body language. It was my face, Tim, where she knew that I was like getting annoyed with listening about her problems and stress. And I felt like shit in that moment. And so the next day, as I'm driving home, I'm thinking to myself, I kept telling myself, be in the moment, be there for her, listen to her, like, whatever you have to do, but just be in the moment with her. So if it makes you feel any better, like I really struggle with that too. And I do a shitty job, man. And I got to get better at it for her right now because she needs me to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, man. I'm the same way. I don't have a poker face.
D.L. Hughley said it best once in a show about boys flushing toilets. What is it about little boys? Poop and get up. And he said, you got Power Ranger underwear on. He goes, what is that? Itchy Ranger? Because that's what you're going to be afterwards. So I thought that was a very funny line by D.L. Hughley. That's a side note. But, back to your question, John, I don't think I deserve a break. It hit me when Tim was talking. I don't think I deserve a break. And I don't mean a break of rest. I don't think a break of vacation. I mean, there's so much that I think that I'm carrying from what I experienced growing up broke and it's not financial. It's not social. It's, in my career, I went from chasing a position to now I'm chasing communities. And when I did that, I flipped the switch in my head because I was superintendent route all day. Went to academies, blah, 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 blah. But I realized, you know what? My greatest legacy isn't who I was, it's what I did. And so that I take that back to my life. And it just made me think back to your question. It was real deep, which is I don't think I deserve one. So, I think in the end, it's something I think I just got to wrestle with. And, I'm a grinder, man. I'm a grinder. I can outwork anybody because I've always been told by my dad, you don't have to be the smartest one in the room, just outwork people. And he taught me that by the way, by using a shovel. Because he goes, I'm gonna teach you how to make a hole or clean out this field with your left hand and your right hand. That way you'll never tire. And I went, and I do it now. I never tire. Outwork not as fat as I am and out of shape. You put a shovel in my hand, you tell me to go do something, I'll be there all day. Yeah, I'm never tired. But I take that into my life, into my work, into whatever. And that's why when people say to me, man, you got so much going on, you got this. And it's like, it's easy for me. But at the same time, it's hard for me because I'm my worst critic and feel like there's so much that my ancestors had to do crossing that border, running through that water, being chased by the immigration, being hosed down, that then I'm like, you're in a suit and tie every day. Your hands are soft as butter. You don't have any calluses. You don't have any stink bites. What are you tripping about? What's your problem? And that's what keeps me grounded, keeps me like, focused in what I'm doing. And so I think that's kind of where I'm. I don't even answer the question, Mike. It just kind of hit me back to what John said. So I apologize.
Yeah, no, you did. I'm going to challenge us, brothers, because, we have to challenge each other, right, in order to get better. We have to model that for those that may be tuning in. Which means at times we got to push each other and push our thinking. So I'm gonna do that and know that it's coming out of a place of love for everyone. But I'm gonna challenge this. I've heard us all say some things, whether it was living in a dash, taking a breath, being in the moment, being to paraphrase, being authentic to oneself. If I'm a worker, then I'm gonna work hard. I want to push us to think selflessly. When we say these things, where is what's the root cause of what we're saying and why? And there's a guilt behind everything that everyone has said. There's a deeper guilt there, as though but we haven't said what's the root cause of that guilt. So I'll start from you, Jose, and kind of push a little bit here. You spoke of your hands not having calluses. But in the same breath, you said, you're working hard. I don't know how I want to say this, but, we put on, I think, sometimes our guilt to us because of the legacy that has come before us. And we're constantly, and I say we, humanity, we, in a place of judgment against whether it's our father, a historical perspective of what the struggle is, instead of getting out to our own root cause. Our struggle today is not the same struggle as it was 100 years ago. And I don't think there's guilt. I don't think there should be guilt there. And I just wonder if we can improve if we are in a place of guilt, or feeling like we have to compare ourselves to another version of ourselves, an earlier generation of ourselves. Taking a breath, Tim, I'm gonna come to you. That seems like it came from a certain place. I guess the challenge is, what have you seen where you feel as though you need to take that breath, or you're not taking that breath? Have we talked to others to say, like, man, Tim, you're doing a pretty damn good job of being when you're coming in a door, And maybe that's not a guilt that you need to carry or hold. John, being in the moment, the fact that Haley said, "Hey, I got you," you know, for you to feel now I have to reciprocate. Maybe she did that because you constantly have her. So I guess what I'm getting at to the fathers on the screen right now and those that are listening is this thing of grace that we have to afford ourselves grace too, and not be in a comparison of others, previous generations, and that's the challenge. Like we're constantly in this state of competition, and trust me, John has known me for a long time now. I have lived that. Still to this day, I'm a fierce competitor. But man, having Addison and Grayson has just changed me a little bit. Like when I said to John, I would have never said to John 10 years ago, "Man, what are you doing in the office?" I would have been in the office until he left. I would have been looking out the door and said, "Oh, his car's still there? Cool. Let me go back in." But at what point? At what cost? I think there's damage that in trying to get better. If we don't get to the root cause of what we're feeling, then we're just constantly going to be in the state of not feeling good enough and not giving ourselves grace and not feeling our own self-worth. And I think if we can feel our own self-worth and we can give ourselves grace, then we can be better. And that's a model that we can share with our children and we can share with our families. So that's the challenge, because I love what we all said, though. Those 4 things of improvement are great, and we should pay attention to those. But do so with grace. Do so getting to the root cause of what you're trying to feel, or what you're feeling. And as I've talked a lot, just like we all said, it's kind of to say it out loud is something that's helping me think it through as well. So I do want to thank everybody for being vulnerable, for sharing your true authentic self, and then allowing me just to kind of push thinking a little bit from a place of brotherhood. Because as I have to say, I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. So once around the corner, we're a couple minutes over, but once around the horn, last parting thoughts. Start with you, Jose.
Just here's the poem I'll end with. I saw it last night on the youth of TikTok. To the person I was yesterday, the poem about change. I believe in change, the change that people don't often notice until it's already happened. Like petals wilting, eyes reddening, raindrops evaporating. I believe in change that is slow and careful, patiently lingering, like flowers blooming, pearls forming, hearts healing. I see little hints of you tucked in my reflection, and I wonder if you'd be proud of me. I wonder if you'd forgive me for all the things I used to say about you. By Shelby Lee.
Thank you. John.
So yeah, I think the word that pops to my mind is worthiness. I think in those moments where we feel like we're not enough or we're not doing enough, we kind of need to direct that energy and that thinking, and really just say, like Mike said, like you're there every day, you're with them, you're seeing them, and you're doing enough. So you are enough. You are doing enough, and you are enough.
John. And Tim.
Mike, I love what you really said. I hate you for having to make us follow that up, because that was awesome. I give my dad a lot of shit on this show because as growing up, we had a crappy relationship, but that was like so long ago. And that hasn't been the case the last 20 years. So, I think I'm going to give my dad a call, let him know we did an okay job.
Okay. So lastly, I'm going to give everyone those that are listening, just a protocol. We talked about getting to the root cause. How do you get to the root cause? Try something called the 5 whys. There's a problem, ask yourself why. When you come up with an answer there, ask yourself why again. Keep asking yourself why until you can't ask yourself why anymore. and that's the root cause, and then put some action to that root cause. Healthy exercise. I recommend everyone try it. So thank you all, brothers. Thank you again for just being who you are. And in John's words, yeah, we are all enough. So everyone have a great week. Let's come back next week and continue our brotherhood. Thank you.
That was a great show, you guys.